The Galactic Empire's sensors blared to life as Earth's sun began to move. For millennia, the Wadi species had ruled the cosmos, their advanced technology unopposed. They had cataloged Earth's star as harmless and dismissed humanity as primitive. Now that assumption crumbled before their eyes. Emperor Kraxen's scaled fingers trembled as he activated the holographic display in the Imperial Council chamber. The images showed the impossible, Sol breaking free from its orbit, propelled by an unseen force. Panic gripped the assembled alien dignitaries. How could the humans, barely able to leave their own planet, possess the power to move stars? On the joint human-Wadi space station orbiting a distant world, astronaut Joseph Clark's heart raced. He pressed his ear against the ventilation duct, straining to catch every word of the frantic Wadi communications. The aliens' chittering voices betrayed their fear and disbelief. Joseph's mind reeled as he pieced together the truth. Earth had secretly developed stellar propulsion technology, and the Wadi were terrified. Joseph knew he had to act. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted, and humanity's survival hung in the balance. He slipped away from his workstation, using his clearance to access restricted Wadi communication channels. The information he found chilled him to the bone. Emperor Kraxen had ordered a fleet to the Sol system, armed for war. Meanwhile, deep beneath the Rocky Mountains on Earth, Project Helios hummed to life. Engineers in white jumpsuits monitored vast arrays of computers, their faces illuminated by the glow of countless screens. Decades of clandestine research had led to this moment. With the press of a button, they activated the orbital platforms encircling the sun. Massive energy fields enveloped Earth's star, harnessing its power. The solar system began to move, embarking on a journey toward resource-rich regions of the galaxy. Humanity's audacious plan for survival and expansion was underway, but at what cost? Joseph's fingers flew over the control panel as he prepared an escape pod. Alarms blared, and Wadi security forces converged on his location. He had mere moments to act. With a final keystroke, he launched the pod, carrying with him the critical intelligence Earth would need to face the coming storm. As Joseph's pod hurtled through space, Emperor Kraxen addressed the Imperial Council. His voice boomed through the chamber, filled with rage and fear. "The humans are no longer a species to be conquered," he declared. "They are an existential threat to our empire. We must neutralize them and seize their stellar propulsion technology at all costs." The Galactic Empire mobilized for war, its vast fleets assembling to confront the upstart humans. But as Earth's sun continued its controlled movement through space, one thing became clear. Humanity would not go quietly into the night. The galaxy trembled, for the age of human ascendancy had begun. Joseph Clark's escape pod streaked through the void, a tiny speck against the vastness of space. His heart pounded as he gripped the controls, weaving through a treacherous asteroid field. Behind him, Wadi pursuit ships loomed, their sleek forms gliding between the rocky obstacles with unnerving precision. Come on," Joseph muttered, his eyes darting between the navigational display and the viewport. He banked hard to port, narrowly avoiding a tumbling chunk of space rock the size of a house. The pod shuddered, and warning lights flashed across the console. A burst of energy from the lead Wadi ship scorched past, missing the pod by mere meters. Joseph's mind raced, recalling every evasive maneuver he'd learned during his years of training. He cut power to the main thrusters, letting the pod's momentum carry it into the shadow of a massive asteroid. The Wadi ships zipped past, their sensors momentarily confused. Taking advantage of the brief reprieve, Joseph plotted a new course. He engaged the thrusters at full power, using the asteroid's gravity to slingshot the pod in a sharp turn. The G-forces pressed him into his seat as he accelerated away from his pursuers, Earth growing larger in his viewport with each passing second. Meanwhile, on the blue planet's surface, chaos reigned. The activation of Project Helios had set off a chain reaction of unforeseen consequences. In New York City, skyscrapers swayed dangerously as the ground beneath them trembled. Cars skidded to a halt on buckling roads, their alarms blaring in a cacophony of panic. Dr. Elena Petrova stood in the control room of Project Helios, her face illuminated by the eerie glow of monitors displaying critical data. Sweat beaded on her forehead as she barked orders to her team. "Divert power from sectors 3 and 4 to stabilize the gravitational field," she shouted, her fingers flying over a touchscreen. "We need to reduce the energy output before—" A violent tremor shook the facility, causing lights to flicker and equipment to rattle. Dr. Petrova stumbled, catching herself on a nearby console. She looked up at the main screen, her eyes widening in horror as she saw the readings spike dangerously into the red. "The energy requirements," she whispered, realization dawning. "They're exponentially higher than our models predicted. If we don't find a way to stabilize the system—" She left the thought unfinished, the implications too terrifying to voice. In Washington, D.C., world leaders convened in an emergency video conference. The President of the United States, her face etched with worry, addressed her counterparts. "Ladies and gentlemen, the situation is dire. We can no longer hide the truth from our citizens. Project Helios, our attempt to move Earth's sun and ensure humanity's survival, has caused unforeseen complications. We must present a united front as we face this crisis and the potential threat from beyond our stars." As the politicians debated, General Marcus Steele strode purposefully through the Pentagon's corridors. He entered a situation room where a team of military strategists awaited his orders. "As of this moment, we are at DEFCON 2, Steele announced, his voice carrying the weight of command. "I want every available asset mobilized. Coordinate with our allies. We need a global defense network operational yesterday." He turned to a wall of screens displaying military installations worldwide. "Initiate Protocol Omega. Every soldier, every scientist, every person with skills we can use. I want them ready to defend Earth. We're facing an enemy unlike any we've encountered before, and failure is not an option." Unknown to Earth's defenders, that enemy was already at their doorstep. Captain Zorn of the Wadi scout ship Silfax observed the third planet from the safety of his cloaked vessel. His large, multifaceted eyes absorbed every detail of the primitive world below. "Fascinating," Zorn chittered to his second-in-command. "These humans have managed to create technology capable of moving a star, yet their defenses seem laughably inadequate." He manipulated the ship's sensors, probing Earth's orbital space. "What's this? Some kind of defensive grid? Scan it thoroughly. The Emperor will want every scrap of intelligence we can gather." As the Silfax's sensors swept Earth's orbit, they inadvertently interfered with the delicate energy fields controlling the sun's movement. On the planet's surface, Dr. Petrova's worst fears materialized. Alarms blared throughout the Project Helios facility. Dr. Petrova rushed to the main console, her face pale as she interpreted the data. "No, no, no," she muttered, her fingers flying over the controls. "The field's destabilizing. If we don't correct this now, we'll lose control completely." She turned to her team, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. "Initiate Emergency Protocol Alpha 9. We need to stabilize the field before—" A blinding flash lit up the sky, visible even in broad daylight. The sun pulsed, sending a massive solar flare hurtling towards Earth. Communication satellites flickered and died, plunging vast swathes of the planet into an information blackout. In low Earth orbit, Major Sarah Baker of Project Aegis watched the approaching solar flare with mounting dread. The secret space defense system had just detected an incoming object, Joseph Clark's escape pod, when the sun's violent outburst threatened to overwhelm their sensors. "Ma'am," one of her officers called out, "we have an unidentified craft approaching rapidly. Its trajectory suggests it's Earth-made, but we can't be certain." Major Baker's mind raced, weighing the risks. If the pod contained vital intelligence, they couldn't afford to lose it. But if it was a Wadi trick— "Prep a retrieval team," she ordered, "but keep weapons hot. We'll bring it in, but we're not taking any chances." As Earth teetered on the brink of catastrophe, its leaders faced an impossible decision. In the White House Situation Room, the President conferred with her closest advisors. "Madam President," the Secretary of Defense urged, "we need to inform the public. The solar flare will hit us in hours. We have to give people a chance to prepare." The president closed her eyes, feeling the weight of billions of lives on her shoulders. When she opened them, her gaze was resolute. "You're right. It's time the world knew everything. About Project Helios, about the Wadi threat, all of it. God help us all." As she prepared to address the nation, Joseph Clark's pod streaked through the atmosphere, carrying with it the intelligence that might tip the balance in humanity's favor. But with the sun's fury bearing down on Earth and a Wadi invasion fleet approaching, the question remained, would it be enough? Major Sarah Baker's eyes narrowed as she studied the incoming telemetry. The unidentified craft's trajectory and heat signature matched known Earth technology. Her fingers flew over the console, initiating a series of rapid scans. "Captain, I'm picking up a weak distress signal," her communications officer reported. "It's one of ours." Baker nodded, her decision made. "Prep retrieval team Alpha. We're bringing that pod in." Within minutes, a sleek stealth shuttle detached from the orbital station, its matte black hull absorbing radar signals as it maneuvered towards the incoming craft. Inside, Joseph Clark fought to keep the battered escape pod on course, acutely aware of the Wadi pursuers not far behind. The shuttle's pilot, Lieutenant Reeves, expertly matched velocity with the pod. "Initiating docking procedure," she announced over the comms. "Stand by for retrieval." Joseph felt a jolt as the shuttle's magnetic clamps engaged, securing the pod. Relief washed over him as he was pulled into the shuttle's cargo bay. The airlock hissed, equalizing pressure, and the pod's hatch swung open. "Welcome aboard, sir," Reeves greeted him. "We need to move fast. Hostile forces incoming." As the shuttle accelerated back towards Earth, the Wadi scout ship Silfax maintained its vigil. Captain Zorn's multifaceted eyes absorbed every detail of the primitive world below, unaware that his very presence was disrupting the delicate balance Earth's scientists fought to maintain. "Fascinating," Zorn chittered, manipulating the ship's sensors. "Their defensive grid is more advanced than we anticipated. Initiate deep scan of the orbital structures." The Silfax's powerful sensors probed Earth's defenses, unknowingly interfering with the energy fields controlling the sun. On the planet's surface, alarms blared throughout the Project Helios facility. Dr. Elena Petrova's face paled as she interpreted the data streaming across her screens. "The field's destabilizing," she announced, her voice tight with tension. "We're losing containment." Her team sprang into action, fingers flying over consoles as they fought to regain control. Petrova initiated emergency protocols, redirecting power from global energy grids to reinforce the containment fields. "Divert all available power to sectors 7 through 12, she ordered. "We need to stabilize the core before—" A violent tremor shook the facility, cutting off her words. Warning klaxons screeched as the main display showed solar activity, spiking to unprecedented levels. In the Pentagon's command center, General Marcus Steele received the dire reports from Project Helios. His lips pursed as he processed the information, knowing the decisions he made in the next few moments could determine humanity's fate. "Activate the planetary defense grid," he commanded, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "All stations, prepare for potential hostile contact." Across the globe, massive structures hidden beneath the Earth's surface began to move. In the Sahara, sand cascaded off a giant metal dome as it rose from its concealment. Similar scenes played out in the Rocky Mountains, the Siberian tundra, and the Australian outback. Earth's last line of defense, a network of powerful ion cannons, stood ready to face the cosmic threat. As chaos unfolded behind the scenes, the world remained largely unaware of the looming danger. But that was about to change. In New York, United Nations Secretary-General Akira Tanaka prepared to address the global community. "My fellow citizens of Earth," Tanaka began, his face grave as he looked into the camera, "I come before you today with news that will forever change our understanding of our place in the universe." As Tanaka revealed the existence of Project Helios and the impending alien threat, panic spread across the globe. In Times Square, the massive video screens displayed his solemn face as crowds gathered. their expressions a mix of disbelief and fear. Meanwhile, Joseph Clark's retrieval shuttle touched down at a secure military facility. He was quickly ushered into a briefing room where General Steele and other high-ranking officials awaited his report. The Wadi Empire's technological capabilities far exceed our initial estimates, Joseph explained, his voice hoarse from exhaustion. Their fleet is massive, with weapons that could obliterate our defenses in minutes. As the military strategists absorbed this crucial intelligence, Dr. Petrova and her team at Project Helios made a breakthrough. By recalibrating the orbital platforms, they managed to stabilize the sun's energy output temporarily. "We've regained control," Petrova announced, allowing herself a moment of relief. "But these energy levels are unprecedented. We need to—" Her words were cut short as a new alarm sounded. The main display showed a massive solar flare erupting from the sun's surface, hurtling directly towards Earth. In orbit, Captain Zorn of the Silfax prepared to return to the Wadi fleet, unaware of the chaos his presence had caused. As he engaged the ship's engines, a surge of solar radiation overwhelmed the cloaking device, briefly revealing the Silfax's position. General Steele, watching the situation unfold on the command center's main screen, saw his opportunity. "All defense grid stations, lock on target and fire at will." Across the planet, the massive ion cannons swiveled in unison, their barrels glowing with almost unchecked energy. In a coordinated assault, beams of searing light lanced into the sky, converging on the Wadi scout ship. Caught off guard, Captain Zorn frantically maneuvered to evade the unexpected attack. The Silfax shuddered as the first volley grazed its hull, overloading shield generators and frying delicate sensor arrays. "Evasive maneuvers!" Zorn screeched, his multiple limbs working furiously at the controls. But the intense solar radiation had compromised the ship's systems, leaving them vulnerable to Earth's counterattack. As the battle raged in orbit, Dr. Petrova and her team raced against time to protect the planet from the approaching solar flare. They huddled around a holographic display, discussing options in rapid-fire technical jargon. "If we reconfigure the Helios field generators," Petrova suggested, her mind working overtime, "we might be able to create a temporary shield around the planet." Her chief engineer, Dr. Yasmin Rahman, nodded in agreement. "It's risky, but it's our best shot. We'll need to divert all available power to the orbital platforms." As the scientists worked feverishly to implement their plan, General Steele coordinated Earth's military response. The ion cannons continued their relentless assault on the Wadi scout ship, each blast bringing humanity closer to its first victory in interstellar combat. In the skies above, the solar flare raced towards Earth, a wall of superheated plasma that threatened to overwhelm the planet's natural defenses. The fate of humanity hung in the balance, caught between stellar fury and alien aggression. Dr. Petrova watched as the energy readings from the Helios platforms climbed steadily. The protective field began to form, a shimmering barrier barely visible to the naked eye. As the solar flare approached, the shield strengthened, preparing to face the ultimate test of human ingenuity and survival. Resilience. As the shield shimmered into existence, a new threat emerged in Earth's orbit. Captain Zorn's damaged Wadi scout ship, its hull scorched and systems failing, veered towards one of the crucial orbital platforms controlling Project Helios. The alien captain, mandibles clicking in defiance, had chosen to go down fighting. General Marcus Steele's eyes widened as he watched the tactical display. "That bastard's going to ram the platform," he growled. "Initiate Guardian Protocol." Across the globe, hidden silos burst open. Sleek interceptor missiles, Earth's last line of defense, streaked into the sky. Their exhaust trails crisscrossed the atmosphere as they raced to intercept the Wadi ship. In the Project Helios Control Center, alarms blared as Dr. Petrova and her team fought to maintain the integrity of Earth's makeshift shield. Sweat beaded on her forehead as she manipulated holographic controls. "Power levels are critical," Dr. Rahman reported, her voice tense. "We're seeing brownouts across Europe and Asia." Petrova nodded grimly. "Divert all non-essential power to the shield generators. We can't let it fail now." Across the planet, cities plunged into darkness. Hospital backup generators hummed to life as the world's power grid strained under the colossal energy demands of Project Helios. In orbit, the Guardian missiles closed in on Captain Zorn's ship. The Wadi vessel juked and weaved, its damaged engines sputtering as it tried to evade Earth's last-ditch defense. "Impact in 10 seconds, a technician announced in the command center. General Steele leaned forward, his knuckles tightening as he gripped the edge of the holotable. "Come on," he muttered. "Come on!" The missiles struck home in a brilliant flash of light. The Wadi scout ship disintegrated, mere moments before it would have struck the orbital platform. A cheer went up in the command center, but it was short-lived. The destruction of the alien vessel released a powerful electromagnetic pulse. Satellite feeds flickered and died. Radio chatter devolved into static. In the sudden silence, General Steele's face hardened. "Get me a status report," he barked. "I want to know what's still operational." As Earth's military scrambled to assess the damage, Joseph Clark huddled with a team of cybersecurity experts in a fortified bunker. Surrounded by banks of computers, they raced to shore up Earth's digital defenses. "The Wadi will try to blind us," Joseph explained, his fingers flying over a keyboard. "We need to harden our systems against their intrusion attempts." A young analyst looked up from her screen, her face pale. "Sir, long-range sensors are picking up something big. Really big." Joseph's blood ran cold as he studied the data. A massive Wadi battle fleet had entered the solar system, their ships arranged in a formation that spoke of military precision and deadly intent. In the lead vessel, Admiral Kraz surveyed the holographic display of the Sol system. His compound eyes glittered with anticipation as he issued commands to his fleet. "Prepare for full-spectrum engagement," Kraz chittered. "We will crush these primitives and claim their star-moving technology for the glory of the Empire." As the Wadi fleet approached, Dr. Petrova made a startling discovery. Analyzing the data from the recent solar activity, she uncovered a previously unknown property of the sun's energy. "This could change everything," she breathed, her eyes wide as she studied the readings. "If we can harness this aspect of solar energy, we might be able to enhance Project Helios beyond our wildest dreams." But time was running out. As Earth's defenders raced to recover from the EMP and prepare for the coming onslaught, a new threat loomed on the horizon. On the Wadi homeworld, Emperor Kraxin faced the stern faces of the Imperial Council. Reports of Captain Zorn's failure and the dispatch of Admiral Kraz's fleet had reached the highest levels of Wadi government. "We cannot allow these humans to possess such power," one counselor insisted. "They must be eliminated." Kraxin's antennae twitched as he considered his options. Finally, he raised a clawed hand for silence. "Very well," he announced. "I hereby authorize the use of the Nova Cannon. Let the humans' own star be the instrument of their destruction." As the orders were relayed to Admiral Kraz's fleet, Earth faced its darkest hour. In an emergency session of the United Nations, Secretary-General Akira Tanaka addressed the assembled delegates. "We stand at the precipice of annihilation," Tanaka declared, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "But we will not face this threat as divided nations. I propose the formation of a unified Earth government to coordinate our planet's defense." The vote was swift and nearly unanimous. As Tanaka was appointed interim leader of the new global alliance, a sense of unity swept across the planet. Humanity, for the first time in its history, stood as one. In the Project Helios Control Center, Dr. Petrova and her team worked feverishly to implement her new discovery. If they could enhance the project's capabilities in time, they might have a fighting chance against the technologically superior Wadi Empire. General Steele, coordinating Earth's military response, faced an impossible decision. With Admiral Kraz's fleet rapidly approaching and the threat of the Nova Cannon looming, he had to choose: stand and fight against overwhelming odds, or attempt a desperate escape using the enhanced Project Helios. As the Wadi ships entered the inner solar system, their weapons charging and Nova Cannon preparing to fire, Earth's fate hung in the balance. The next few hours would determine not just the survival of humanity, but its place in a vast and hostile universe. Dr. Petrova's fingers danced across the holographic interface, inputting the final calculations for the enhanced Helios field. She took a deep breath, knowing that success or failure in the next few moments would decide the fate of her species. "Initiating Enhanced Helios Protocol," she announced, her voice steady despite the tension evident in her eyes. "May God have mercy on us all." Dr. Petrova's finger hovered over the activation switch. She glanced at her team, their faces illuminated by the glow of holographic displays. With a nod, she pressed down. The orbital platforms hummed to life, their energy signatures shifting as they adapted to harness the newly discovered properties of solar energy. The control room erupted into a flurry of activity as engineers and scientists monitored the system's performance. "Energy absorption rate is increasing exponentially," Dr. Rahman reported, her eyes wide as she studied the incoming data. "The shield's strength is surpassing all our projections." Outside, the shimmering barrier encasing Earth grew more vibrant, its iridescent surface rippling with newfound power. As if on cue, the first volley from Admiral Kraz's fleet streaked across the void of space, a barrage of deadly energy weapons aimed at Earth's defenses. The enhanced Helios field flared brightly as it intercepted the attack. Instead of buckling under the onslaught, the shield seemed to drink in the energy, growing stronger with each impact. In the Wadi command ship, Admiral Kraz chittered in frustration as his tactical display showed the ineffectiveness of their initial assault. "Impossible," he hissed, mandibles clicking. "Intensify the attack. We will break through their defenses." The space around Earth lit up with a dazzling display of weapons fire as the Wadi ships unleashed their full arsenal. Yet each blast only served to further strengthen the Helios field, its glow now visible even from the surface of the planet. General Steele watched the battle unfold from the military command center, his face set in stubborn persistence. "It's working," he muttered, "but they're not going to give up that easily." He turned to his communications officer. "Activate the Guardian Protocol. It's time to show these bugs what humanity is really capable of." Across the globe, hidden launch sites burst into action. Sleek spacecraft rose from concealed hangars, their hulls gleaming in the sunlight. Within each vessel, squads of space marines prepared for battle, checking their exosuits and weapons one last time. Colonel John Ironside Hawkins addressed his troops from the bridge of the lead ship. "Today we fight not just for Earth, but for the future of our species. Remember your training, watch each other's backs, and let's send these Wadi bastards back to whatever rock they crawled out from." As the Space Marine fleet engaged their stealth systems and moved into position, the Wadi launched their next phase of attack. Smaller ships detached from the main fleet, swarming towards Earth's orbital installations. "Boarding parties detected," a technician announced in the command center. "They're targeting our key satellites and space stations." General Steele's eyes narrowed. "Colonel Hawkins, you are clear to engage. Protect those installations at all costs." The Space Marines decloak at the last moment, catching the first wave of Wadi boarders by surprise. The void erupts in a silent ballet of destruction as human and alien forces clash in zero-gravity combat. Colonel Hawkins leads from the front, his exosuit's thrusters flaring as he weaves through the chaos. He spots a Wadi command ship coordinating the attack and makes a split-second decision. "Alpha Team, with me," he orders over the comm. "We're taking out their command and control." Back on Earth, Joseph Clark hunches over a bank of computers, lines of code scrolling rapidly across multiple screens. He turns to his team of engineers, sweat beading on his brow. "We're almost there. Just a few more minutes and we'll have control of the entire satellite network." As Clark works, the battle in orbit intensifies. The Space Marines, though outnumbered, use their knowledge of Earth's orbital infrastructure to devastating effect. They lure Wadi ships into the paths of space debris, use maintenance corridors as ambush points, and turn the very environment of space against their enemies. Colonel Hawkins and his team breach the Wadi command ship, engaging in close-quarters combat with the alien crew. The colonel's exosuit amplifies his strength as he grapples with a Wadi officer. the two spinning through the ship's corridors in a deadly zero-G dance. With a final push, Hawkins reaches the ship's bridge. He overrides the security systems and inputs a series of commands. The Wadi vessel's engines flare to life, sending it on a collision course with several other enemy ships. "Command ship neutralized," Hawkins reports as he and his team evacuate. The resulting explosion takes out a significant portion of the Wadi boarding force, turning the tide of the orbital battle. Meanwhile, Joseph Clark's efforts bear fruit. Earth's communication satellites reconfigure, emitting a web of disruptive signals that play havoc with Wadi sensor systems. The alien fleet's formation begins to falter as ships lose coordination and collide with one another. In the Project Helios Control Center, Dr. Petrova receives an urgent alert. "We're detecting a massive energy buildup in the Wadi fleet," she announces, her voice tense. It matches the theoretical signature of the Nova Cannon. General Steele's face hardens as he processes this information. He opens a secure channel to Secretary General Tanaka. "Mr. Secretary General, we're out of time. We need to implement Operation Solar Flare now, or we won't get another chance." Tanaka nods gravely. "You have full authorization, General. May God be with us all." As the Nova Cannon charges, preparing to unleash devastation on an unimaginable scale, Dr. Petrova and her team begin the delicate process of inducing a controlled solar eruption. The fate of Earth, perhaps the entire solar system, hangs in the balance. Suddenly, alarms blare across every command center and scientific installation. A massive unknown ship has appeared at the edge of the solar system, its energy readings off the charts. Friend or foe, its arrival adds a wild card to an already chaotic situation. As humanity prepares for what could be its final stand, the mysterious new arrival accelerates toward the battlefield, its intentions unknown and its impact on the conflict yet to be determined. The mysterious ship's arrival sent shockwaves through both human and Wadi forces. Its sleek, otherworldly design spoke of technology far beyond either faction's comprehension. In the Project Helios Control Center, Dr. Petrova's eyes widened as she studied the readings. "This is our chance," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Initiate the solar eruption sequence now." Her team sprang into action, their fingers flying across holographic interfaces. The sun's surface began to roil and churn, building up to a massive burst of energy. Admiral Kraz, still reeling from the appearance of the unknown vessel, was caught off guard by the sudden solar activity. "What trickery is this?" he chittered, mandibles clicking in agitation. Before he could issue new orders, a blinding flash erupted from the sun. The Wadi fleet's systems flickered and died, including the half-charged Nova Cannon. Kraz's compound eyes reflected the chaos on his bridge as officers scrambled to restore power. General Steele, watching from Earth's military command center, seized the moment. "All units, engage! Take down that fleet while they're vulnerable." Colonel Hawkins and his Space Marines didn't need to be told twice. Their ships, protected by the enhanced Helios field, swarmed towards the disabled Wadi vessels. Hawkins led the charge, his exosuit's thrusters propelling him towards Admiral Kraz's flagship. "Breach team, on me!" Hawkins barked into his comm. "We're going for the big bug himself!" The Marines used shaped charges to blow a hole in the Wadi ship's hull. As the explosive decompression subsided, they poured in, their magnetic boots allowing them to navigate the suddenly zero-G environment with ease. Wadi soldiers, their own systems still rebooting, were caught flat-footed. The close quarters of the ship's corridors negated their numerical advantage, and the humans' exosuits gave them a significant edge in strength and durability. Hawkins ducked under a clumsy swipe from a Wadi guard, then used his suit's enhanced strength to hurl the alien into a bulkhead. "Push forward!" he shouted, leading his team deeper into the ship. As the battle raged in space, the mysterious ship drew closer. Its sleek hull seemed to absorb light, making it difficult to focus on directly. Suddenly, a transmission cut through the comm chatter on all frequencies. "Attention, warriors of Earth and the Wadi Empire. This is Matriarch Zyla of the Zin Collective. Cease your hostilities immediately or face the consequences." The voice was melodious yet carried an unmistakable tone of authority. In the UN emergency session, Secretary General Tanaka's eyes widened in recognition. "The Xin," he breathed. "I thought they were just a legend." Joseph Clark, hunched over a console nearby, shook his head. "No legend, sir. The Xin were a dominant force in the galaxy millennia ago. If that's really them out there, we need to tread carefully." Tanaka nodded, his mind racing. "Open a channel to both the Xin and the Wadi. We need to de-escalate this situation before it spirals even further out of control." As Tanaka began his diplomatic overtures, Admiral Kraz faced a crisis of his own. His fleet was crippled, caught between the reinvigorated human forces and the unknown threat of the Xin. "Bypass all safety protocols," he shrieked at his engineering team. "Get the Nova cannon online now. We'll destroy them all in one fell swoop." But even as his crew rushed to comply, a new threat emerged. Kraz's tactical officer let out a horrified screech. "Admiral, our systems are being invaded by some kind of microscopic machines." The nanobot swarm, Earth's last-ditch weapon, had been deployed. Countless microscopic robots were infiltrating the Wadi ships, disrupting systems and sowing chaos wherever they went. As Kraz watched his fleet crumble around him, the Xin ship made its move. It positioned itself between the warring factions, and a shimmering energy field expanded from its hull. Weapons fire from both sides fizzled harmlessly against the barrier. Matriarch Xyla's voice rang out once more. "We have observed your species for centuries, waiting for this moment. The time has come for a new era of galactic cooperation. You will cease fire and prepare for negotiations, or you will be neutralized. The choice is yours." In the Project Helios Control Center, Dr. Petrova's team was poring over the data from the recent solar eruption. Her eyes widened as she realized the implications of what she was seeing. "This is incredible," she murmured. "The controlled movement of our sun has triggered a reaction in nearby stars. If we can harness this effect—" She trailed off, her mind racing with possibilities. Meanwhile, on the bridge of the Wadi flagship, Colonel Hawkins and his team had fought their way through waves of alien defenders. They burst onto the command deck, weapons raised. "Admiral Kraz!" Hawkins called out, his voice amplified by his suit's speakers. "Surrender now, and we can end this without further bloodshed." Kraz's compound eyes swiveled towards the human intruders. For a moment, it seemed he might order a suicidal last stand. Then his antennae drooped in resignation. "I yield," he chittered. "The Wadi Empire accepts your terms of ceasefire." As word of the Wadi surrender spread, a tentative calm settled over the battlefield. Secretary General Tanaka, seizing the moment, opened diplomatic channels to both the Wadi and the Xin. "Representatives of the Wadi Empire and the Xin Collective," he began, his voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "On behalf of humanity, I invite you to join us in trilateral negotiations. Together, we can forge a path towards peace and mutual understanding." As the leaders of three species prepared to meet, the hope of the universe hung in the balance. The conflict that had brought them to the brink of annihilation could now be the catalyst for a new age of cooperation and discovery. Yet the road ahead was fraught with challenges, and the tenuous peace could shatter at any moment. In the shadow of the Xin ship, with Earth's sun still turbulent from its induced eruption, the stage was set for a historic encounter that would shape the course of galactic history for millennia to come. As the sun's turbulence began to subside, a new chapter in galactic history was about to unfold. The hastily constructed neutral space station orbiting Earth became the focal point of an unprecedented gathering. Secretary General Tanaka led the human delegation, her posture straight and her eyes sharp as she faced her alien counterparts. Admiral Kraz, his chitinous exoskeleton gleaming under the station's lights, represented the Wadi Empire. Matriarch Xyla of the Xin Collective completed the trio, her ethereal form seeming to shimmer with an inner light. As the leaders took their seats around the triangular negotiation table, tension crackled in the air like static electricity. Tanaka cleared her throat, her voice steady as she addressed the gathered delegates. "We stand at a crossroads," she began. "Our conflict has brought us to the brink of mutual destruction, but it has also opened doors to possibilities beyond our wildest dreams." While the negotiations commenced, Dr. Petrova and her team worked tirelessly in the Project Helios Control Center. Holographic displays flickered with streams of data as they analyzed the aftermath of the induced solar eruption. "This is extraordinary," Dr. Petrova murmured, her eyes widening as she studied a particularly complex set of equations. "The gravitational ripples we created, they're not dissipating. They're forming stable patterns across nearby star systems." Her colleague, Dr. Chen, leaned in for a closer look. "It's like a network of cosmic highways," he said, awe evident in his voice. As the implications of their discovery became clear, Dr. Petrova immediately relayed the information to Secretary General Tanaka. The message reached Tanaka's neural implant just as Admiral Kraz was outlining the Wadi Empire's territorial demands. Tanaka's eyes flickered briefly as she processed the information. A small smile played at the corners of her mouth as she formulated a new strategy. "Admiral Kraz, Matriarch Zyla," she said, interrupting the Wadi leader mid-sentence. "I believe we have an opportunity here that transcends our individual interests. Our scientists have made a discovery that could revolutionize interstellar travel." As Tanaka explained the concept of the cosmic highways, Admiral Kraz's antennae twitched with interest. His compound eyes seemed to gleam as he contemplated the military applications of such technology. Matriarch Zyla, however, remained inscrutable. When Tanaka finished her explanation, the Zen leader spoke, her voice a melodious hum that seemed to resonate within the listeners' minds. "We have observed similar phenomena in our travels," she said, "but never have we encountered a species capable of generating such effects intentionally. Your achievement is most impressive." As the negotiations continued, the atmosphere on the station subtly shifted. The potential of the cosmic highways had introduced a new dynamic, one of collaboration rather than conflict. However, not everyone was pleased with this turn of events. Aboard the damaged Wadi flagship, a group of hardline loyalists gathered in a dimly lit chamber. "The Admiral has gone soft," hissed Sub-Commander Vex, his mandibles clicking in agitation. "He would have us capitulate to these lesser species." The other Wadi present chittered in agreement. Vex moved to a control panel, his clawed appendages hovering over the activation sequence for the Nova cannon. "We will show them the true might of the Wadi Empire," he declared. Back on Earth in the military command center, General Steele frowned as he studied a holo display of the Wadi flagship. Something about the energy readings didn't sit right with him. "Get me a direct line to Secretary General Tanaka," he barked to his communications officer. As Tanaka received the alert from General Steele, she maintained her composure, not wanting to alarm her alien counterparts. She discreetly signaled to her aides, setting in motion a series of precautionary measures. Joseph Clark, who had been monitoring the negotiations remotely, sprang into action. He assembled a team of Earth's top cybersecurity experts, their fingers flying over holographic interfaces as they worked to develop a countermeasure against the Nova cannon. "We need to create an electromagnetic pulse powerful enough to knock out their weapon systems," Clark explained, his voice tense with concentration, "but precise enough not to destroy the entire ship." As Clark's team raced against time, Colonel Hawkins received encrypted orders via his neural implant. He gathered his space marines, their exosuits primed for action. "We may need to move fast," Hawkins briefed his team. "Be ready for anything." The Zen ship, silent and imposing, suddenly came to life. Advanced sensor arrays unfolded from its sleek hull, scanning the Wadi flagship. Matriarch Zyla's eyes widened almost imperceptibly as she processed the information. "Admiral Kraz," she said, her voice cutting through the ongoing discussion. "It appears some of your subordinates are acting against your orders. They are preparing to fire the Nova cannon." Kraz's exoskeleton seemed to pale, his antennae drooping in shock and anger. "Impossible," he chittered. "I gave explicit orders." "It's true," Tanaka interjected, deciding to lay all cards on the table. Our sensors have detected the energy buildup as well. For a moment, the negotiation chamber was silent. Then Admiral Kraz rose, his posture rigid with fury. "Secretary General Tanaka, Matriarch Zyla," he said, his voice filled with a mix of shame and drive. "I hereby authorize your forces to take whatever action necessary to prevent this atrocity." With Kraz's authorization, events began to unfold rapidly. Tanaka gave the go-ahead to General Steele, who in turn activated the joint Earth-Zin operation. Colonel Hawkins and his Space Marines, their exosuits gleaming, launched from their captured Wadi vessels. They streaked towards the Wadi flagship, protected by a shimmering energy shield projected by the Zin ship. Inside the Wadi flagship, Sub-Commander Vex and his loyalists worked feverishly to initiate the Nova Cannon's firing sequence. Alarms blared throughout the ship as the weapon's massive energy core began to pulse with increasing intensity. As Hawkins and his team breached the flagship's hull, Joseph Clark's voice crackled over the comms. "Colonel, we're ready with the EMP device. Get as close to the Nova Cannon as you can, then give us the signal." Hawkins acknowledged the order, leading his team deeper into the bowels of the alien ship. They encountered sporadic resistance from confused Wadi crew members, but the element of surprise was on their side. Meanwhile, in the negotiation chamber, tensions reached a fever pitch. Admiral Kraz paced back and forth, his mandibles clicking furiously. Tanaka stood with her hands clasped behind her back, outwardly calm, but inwardly churning with anxiety. Matriarch Zyla remained seated, her otherworldly eyes focused on something beyond the confines of the room. As Colonel Hawkins and his team fought their way towards the Nova Cannon's control room, the weapon's energy signature continued to build. The fate of Earth, the solar system, and perhaps the entire galaxy hung in the balance, dependent on the success of this desperate mission. With time running out, Hawkins and his Marines finally reached their objective. They burst into the Nova Cannon's control room, catching Sub-Commander Vex and his loyalists off guard. As a firefight erupted in the cramped space, Hawkins knew they had only seconds to act before the weapon reached critical mass. His finger hovering over the detonator for Clark's EMP device, Hawkins prepared to make the call that would determine the fate of billions. The air crackled with tension as human, Wadi, and Zin, forces alike held their breath, waiting to see if this 11th hour gambit would succeed or if they were about to witness the birth of a new sun and the death of a solar system. As Colonel Hawkins's finger hovered over the detonator. In that instant, he made his decision and pressed the button. A pulse of electromagnetic energy surged through the Wadi flagship, momentarily plunging the vessel into darkness. The Nova Cannon's control panels flickered and died, their displays going black. Sub-Commander Vex let out a shriek of rage as his weapon powered down. "Now!" Hawkins shouted, leading his team into action. They surged forward, engaging the Loyalists in close-quarters combat. The cramped confines of the control room erupted into chaos as Human and Wadi fought hand-to-hand. Hawkins grappled with Vex, the two leaders locked in a desperate struggle. The Colonel's enhanced strength, courtesy of his exosuit, gave him an edge, but Vex's chitinous armor and multiple limbs made him a formidable opponent. As they fought, alarms began to blare throughout the ship. Red emergency lights bathed the control room in an eerie glow. Vex's mandibles clicked in triumph. "You're too late, Human," he hissed. "The backup systems are online. The Nova Cannon will fire." Hawkins realized with growing dread that the EMP had only bought them precious minutes. He activated his comlink. "Clark, we need options." Joseph Clark's voice crackled through the static. "Colonel, there's no time to fully disable the weapon. You need to redirect it. The targeting system should be on the main control panel." Hawkins delivered a powerful blow to Vex's midsection, sending the Wadi commander reeling. He turned to his team. "Zala, Chen, cover me." As his Marines laid down suppressing fire, Hawkins sprinted to the control panel. His eyes darted over the alien symbols, searching for anything that resembled a targeting system. The ship shuddered as the Nova Cannon began to power up once more. 30 seconds to firing sequence," Clark's voice warned over the comm. Hawkins's fingers flew over the controls, guided by instinct and the brief training he'd received on Wadi technology. He located what he hoped was the targeting matrix and began to input new coordinates. 20 seconds. Vex, recovering from the blow, launched himself at Hawkins. "I'll die before I let you destroy our greatest weapon," he screeched. Private Chen intercepted the Wadi, tackling him to the ground. The two rolled across the floor, a tangle of human and alien limbs. 10 seconds! Hawkins made the final adjustments, redirecting the Nova cannon towards an empty region of space far from any inhabited systems. He slammed his hand down on what he prayed was the confirmation button. 5, 4, 3. The ship vibrated violently as the Nova cannon reached full power. Hawkins and his team braced themselves, unsure if they'd succeeded or if they were about to witness the destruction of Earth. A blinding light filled the viewports as the Nova cannon fired. The beam of concentrated energy lanced out into space, its trajectory arcing away from Earth and the surrounding systems. For a moment, it seemed as if a new star had been born in the void. As the light faded, a stunned silence fell over the control room. Vex slumped in defeat, his antennae drooping. Hawkins exhaled slowly, the tension draining from his body. "Earth Control, this is Colonel Hawkins," he reported. "The Nova cannon has been successfully redirected. I repeat, Earth is safe." Cheers erupted over the comm link, the jubilant voices of the combined Earth and Xin forces filling the airwaves. In the negotiation chamber, Secretary General Tanaka allowed herself a small smile of relief. Admiral Kraz's mandibles clicked rapidly in what seemed to be a Wadi expression of amazement. With the immediate threat neutralized, Hawkins and his team quickly secured the remaining loyalists. Vex and his followers were placed under arrest, to be turned over to Admiral Kraz for judgment under Wadi law. As the adrenaline of battle faded, the enormity of what had transpired began to sink in. The joint operation between Earth and the Xin had not only saved their world, but had also demonstrated the potential of their alliance. In the days that followed, Secretary General Tanaka, Admiral Kraz, and Matriarch Zyla worked tirelessly to draft a comprehensive peace treaty. The document they produced would lay the foundation for a new era of galactic cooperation. On the newly constructed space station Unity, representatives from Earth, the Wadi Empire, and the Xin Collective gathered for the historic signing ceremony. The station's grand hall was filled with an atmosphere of cautious optimism as delegates from the three species mingled. Secretary General Tanaka stepped up to the podium, her voice calm and measured as she addressed the assembly. "Today, we stand at the threshold of a new age," she began, "an age where the boundaries that once divided us fade away in the light of our shared aspirations." She gestured to Admiral Kraz and Matriarch Zyla, who joined her at the podium. "Together, we will forge a path towards mutual understanding and progress. The galactic cooperative we establish today will be a beacon of hope for all species, a testament to what we can achieve when we set aside our differences and work as one." As Tanaka spoke, Dr. Petrova and her team watched the proceedings from the Project Helios Control Center on Earth. Holographic displays showed the extensive network of cosmic highways they had mapped since the initial discovery. "Just think," Dr. Chen mused, his eyes gleaming with excitement. "A few months ago, we were trying to move our sun. Now we're on the verge of revolutionizing interstellar travel." Dr. Petrova nodded, a hint of a smile on her usually serious face. "And this is only the beginning. With the combined knowledge of three species, there's no limit to what we can accomplish." Back on Unity, the leaders of the three species stepped forward to sign the treaty. As each put their mark on the document, a ripple of applause spread through the hall. When the final signature was in place, Tanaka raised her hand for silence. "Let this moment be forever remembered," she said, her voice carrying to every corner of the station. "Not as the end of a conflict, but as the beginning of a grand adventure that will take us to the farthest reaches of the galaxy and beyond." With those words, the Galactic Cooperative was born. As the assembled delegates cheered and congratulated one another, few could have predicted the challenges and triumphs that lay ahead. The cosmic highways stretched out before them, promising a future filled with endless possibilities.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.